Привет. Please don't get excited. Unfortunately I do not speak Russian, not that it matters as this presentation is re-recorded after the Moscow one. First disclaimer, this presentation contains flashing images and I really mean it, not like on TV when they say and there is nothing flashing at all. Second disclaimer, I tend to speak really fast when I get excited about design stuff and I will get excited, so feel free to slow me down, at least that's what I said during the original presentation. My name is Daniel and I am co-owner and the designer behind AOKU brand. I am also the guy from all our social media images. Our handle is AOKUCO. Follow us on your favorite social media outlet. We are on almost every single one, even on VK. Just please do not message us in Russian as I won't be able to answer you back. Chapter 1. In this chapter I am going to answer a really frequent question I get a lot. How did you get into techwear? My clothing style since teenage was based on my activities, mostly based on the functionality, so I spent my free time aggressive inline skating and nighttime city lurking. You will understand that later. For those activities I needed something I can move freely, blend in shadows and carry stuff around. Also I was on budget as I was just an average student, so I was wearing white Superstars, black military surplus US BDU pants, black hoodie and burgundy East pack to carry the stuff. My techwear invention from those days was wearing a light grey melange hoodie inside out under a black hoodie. This setup allowed me to change appearance really quickly and look completely unsuspicious. They had no idea I was the guy in black they were looking for. In the next century I got a graphic designer job on decent salary and basically I kept wearing pretty much the same style, just the price per item increased a lot. So to answer the question, I was not chasing techwear as a style but based on the functionalities I needed my garments to fulfill. I kinda naturally grew into it. Chapter 2. This chapter is going to be about AOKU before Aoku as you know it now. I started AOKU as my nom de guerre for my graphic design outputs. I was creating these, mostly vector graphics and illustrations for various clients, chasing my graphic design/illustration career. My style was heavily influenced by graffiti, rave culture and 80s and 90s cartoons. My most favorite one was Mask. Make sure to check that one out if you are into non-anime cartoons. This style was not really popular, however I managed to put some of my hyper-overkill graphics, kawaii characters and hard-to-read typography looking like future visions from the Y2K era in a consistent portfolio. I also created first items that are more in line with the stuff AOKU is producing now, so I made these patches to spice up my patch rotation on my third arm bag. One of the patches was a black-on-black reflective one and the second one contained an FC chip. I created these mostly to attract more clients towards my graphic design outputs. Chapter number 3. Starting AOKU as a brand and first DIY efforts and products. It all started with me customizing my acronym 3A3TS bag. What I hated about the bag since day one was the olive zipper. I personally find the olive as a natural color hard to match with pure whites. I know plenty of you will disagree, but I cannot get over it. So I wanted to customize my bag and I kinda find it really hard to explain to anyone what I wanted to do with the bag, because it was not only about the zipper at this point. I was unable to find anyone who was able to do that, so I decided to take my sewing machine and do it on my own. I studied packaging and graphic design, which has nothing to do with anything tailor or sewing, which I had zero experience with, but I decided to take apart my bag and make it fit my needs. The most significant customization, apart from the zipper, is the Triforce strap system, that featured a 3D printed plastic buckle to allow me to carry the bag as a backpack. I'm a DC hoarder and I carry a lot of stuff, and this system allows me to carry way more. I also included the very first elevator pocket system. These use the same tech that all our current bags use, just with a minor construction difference. These changes were still a showcase of what I can create, as I found most brands not inventing much in terms of bag design. I posted the bag and all the features on Super Future message board, and people really liked and started to ask me to create a custom items for them. So, hey, when people like it, let's create more. I started the AOKU surplus output storefront. As the name suggests, I was making extra items that were not for my own use, put them online in my e-store. Stuff that I had back in the day was just simple keychains, belts, card holders, sleeves, and even some more advanced bags. Actually, a first version of a Musetti bag was created back then. Plenty of people ask about the gym bag. There were only 5 of them ever made, and I gave 2 away, and 5th one is in my possession. At this time I was using my Janin 525S home sewing machine. It's actually this very machine, including the stickers, just differently placed. My free time grind was designing items, sewing them, taking product photos, walking to the post office. I bought some envelopes, put the gear in and sent it to people who placed orders. Then again, weekdays in advertising agency, weeks sewing gear, putting it online, walking to post office, and again. Thanks to the consistent branding, people started to recognize AOKU as a brand, which was not surprising for me as I was familiar with this from my visual portfolio. I had the NY portfolio hosted on Behance, and some of my workmates had their portfolios there too, just they were using their real names. They were getting job offers, like come and work for us in this fancy city. What I was getting were internship requests. Aspiring designers were thinking AOKU is some kind of a design studio and wanted to work for me. We still go by this saying, write the book you want to read. This approach is not only about creating the product I wanted to exist, but even about creating the narrative for AOKU brand. If you check our feed, you should notice we try to have it as consistent as possible, so every image matches the previous one and will match the next one. I feel like this true approach is what brought the loyal customers/fans/friends towards AOKU. People can sense if you do something you believe in. Chapter 4, called Outsourcing, starts. At this point AOKU is joined by my loved one, Monica. She was the one who found our first contractor seamstress to create multiple units based on my designs. So I had to change my modus operandi and create manuals that someone else is capable of understanding. We prepared all the materials and delivered it our first multiplier. At first I was a bit ashamed that the legend of one guy who is creating everything in his garage on his own is no longer true, and that there is this woman who is in fact making the final products. But later on I realized it was for better, because if I kept creating everything on my own, I would have probably quit later. We created Generation 2 products, including scarves, harness, some more advanced pouches for our bags, and even multiple Musetti bags. Our seamstress is having this little house next to her garage. She is well equipped and skilled. Her seams were much better than mine, and she was able to create multiple items in shorter time. I could focus on developing new styles, which is something I am more into than sewing the very same items on and on again. I leveled up my sewing machine into this 1970s industrial faff machine. Actually, if you are looking for a machine yourself and you have a space to fit an industrial one, have a look on second-hand industrial machines. They are way cheaper and they are a huge improvement in the workflow. The front image in this slideshow is a reversed kimono-style dress that I designed as a final work on completely useless fashion crash course I attended. Waste of time and resources. Another tip: if you are looking for education, always try to speak to someone who has already passed the very same course. For example, this course was way less about scaled production and way more about creating single bespoke fashion pieces. A few months later our seamstress went crazy. It was not our fault. Chapter 0. This was the time when I realized that customizing gear and creating my own designs is something I was into much earlier than my teenage skating days. The guy on the very left, that's me in 1992 wearing my dark DPN camouflage set and something looking like 1106-19 key fob super early prototype. As a member of Boy Scouts organization I spent a lot of time in nature and I was really into camouflage and army stuff. But when you are 8, it's impossible to buy any military gear to fit you. I forced my mother to sew the gear for me. What I did was I drew basic pocket layouts and had my mother create the clothes for me. So the first seamstress is still crazy, so we need to find someone new. We found a new workshop. It's way bigger than someone just in a garage, or someone with a single sewing machine. So it's a proper workshop. However, we need to upscale everything, from 3 bags to 10 bags to more bags in single batch, or they are not working for us at all. Upscaling is like really beneficial. On the other hand, it's really scary. It's beneficial. We have new products. We have the waist bags, new keychains, we have the pod pocket system, we have new color options, new messenger bag. Actually, plenty of stuff was created in this workshop as their production capacity is much bigger, and if anyone gets crazy, they are easier to replace. It's scary. We have to upscale everything and more material, and therefore more money is involved. We decided to invest and order 500 yards of fabric from our USA supplier, which is really huge order for us. We paid for the fabric. As the fabric is transported to Europe, it got lost. I have no idea how one can lose box that big, but it happened. We really needed the fabric, so we decided to order another 500 yards box and deal with the insurance later. As soon as the second box is paid for, the first box is found. So we have 1,000 yards of fabric which will last us next 3 years. Great. The fabric arrives, we inspect it and we realize the fabric is bad. The ripstop pattern has something called skew or bow, which is this not vaporwave visual but how the ripstop actually looked. Not only it looked weird but also was really hard to work with. So we contacted the manufacturer, but they did not find it faulty because it does not affect the functionality of the fabric. However, we are welcome to return it on our expense. So we did it. Money lost, lesson learned. As a part of this chapter, I am going to take you through the process of creating the 130-402 messenger bag. Even when we are using these numbers for our product names, I am not really good with them, and I do not expect most of you to be. This is the bag in question. It's a site-specific messenger bag, featuring all design features and aesthetics of all our previous products. It all starts with paper sketches. These are the authentic sketches used for creating the messenger bag. I always work with a pen first, and as you can see that the very first sketch is different compared to final product. For example, there was an extra row of text size above a dump pocket, which was impossible to utilize because it will make the bag either vertical or really huge. So once the initial sketches are done, I start doing measurements and calculations. I sew the first prototype, then, as you can see there are some differences this time too. I take the bag for heavy test drive to check all the functions. Based on the results, I create a second sample with a manual so the workshop can create their sample. I mentioned the manual. This is what the manual looks like. It's step-by-step guide on how to create the bag. It's a really time-consuming and painful process of taking photo after every single seam is done. However, the physical sample in the first page, the bill of materials, which contains all the measurements and parts list, is more important for the workshop. The bag consists of around 120 pieces, and it's better to show them more than less. When the final sample from the workshop is approved, we go into production. I use these images there because that's what we do at this point, being nervous and hoping nothing will get screwed. The zippers can go wrong, the looping can go wrong, and time to time we have exactly these issues, that the zippers open toward the other side, that the webbing is looped in a wrong way and stuff like that I would find impossible to mess up myself. That is probably caused by me not using the standard procedures. After the bags are done, we use the final ones and take and edit photos of them. We do everything on our own. So far we have not used any external photographers or retouchers. Everything is done in-house. Because it's a complex bag, we decided to explain it better in a video. This is the final shot in the video, and this time you can see the behind the scenes. Fake it till you make it is the name of the game. This shot was taken on DSLR, placed on a skateboard in our living room and carefully moved. At this point we are talking to another and way bigger factory. We are working on our first garments made from our own patterns. There is a lot of stuff in the making right now. I am not only excited with all the products, but also a lot about all the new skills I learned along the AOKU journey. I learned how to sew, edit videos, I learned more efficient retouching techniques, and I learned how to animate, and I made friends all around the globe. Lastly and most importantly, I am in charge of doing all the customer support, which is really important thing, to talk and answer our customers/fans/friends. So if you have any questions, Please place a comment in the comment section and I will answer all of them. Thank you for your attention.